Nobody could have predicted that on this otherwise ordinary night in the studio, the most unexpected and oddly charming turn would come in the form of a selfie. As the opening credits rolled and the studio lights bathed the stage in warm glamour, the audience buzzed with anticipation. They had come for wit. They had come for laughs, but what they got instead was a slice of pure, unscripted magic. When Stephen Colbert welcomed Sarah McDaniel to the stage, the mood shifted, not dramatically, but noticeably. Sarah, with her radiant, mismatched eyes and a calm but playful confidence, wasn't there to promote a movie or push a product. No, her mission was far more whimsical and infinitely more viral. As Stephen leaned in, eyebrows raised with genuine curiosity, he lobbed the question that would become the spark for the night's transformation. Is there a secret to a great selfie? What he likely meant as a light icebreaker turned into the gateway for something far more entertaining. Sarah didn't hesitate. "I think there is," she said with a sly grin, her tone a mix of mischievous pride and earnest instruction. "Want me to show you?" The crowd let out a mixture of laughter and applause, sensing the spark between two vastly different generations about to collide in a flash of iPhone screens and impromptu poses. What followed was a segment that blurred the line between talk show and tech tutorial. Stephen, equal parts skeptical and game, pulled out his phone with the uncertain grace of a man who has used front-facing cameras strictly for Zoom calls and passport photos. "I got one right here," he said, holding the device like it might bite him. Sarah leaned in, already unlocking her camera app like a seasoned warrior preparing for a duel. "We'll do one at the same time," she said, with the confidence of a woman who's lit more ring lights than birthday candles. "They're selfies, not portraits. We're in this together." The crowd roared with approval as Stephen tried to keep up, fumbling slightly with his phone's orientation while Sarah gently corrected him. "That's not your angle," she said with a smirk. "Trust me." She didn't just take the selfie, she elevated it, turning her head ever so slightly, lifting the camera to just above eye level, subtly angling her shoulder. She was a sculptor, and the canvas was a live broadcast stage. Stephen tried to mirror her moves, and the result was hilarity gold. His concentration was intense, like a man defusing a bomb. "Do I smile?" he asked, only half joking. "Or do I do that thing, the duck lips?" Sarah chuckled and shook her head. "Duck lips are over. Think smize. Smile with your eyes." Stephen tried, and the result was somewhere between seduction and seizure. The audience erupted, but beyond the laughs, there was something truly endearing about the moment. Sarah wasn't mocking him. She was mentoring him. She guided him through subtle differences, how lighting shifts the tone of a face, how the tilt of a chin can spell the difference between red carpet glam and DMV disaster, and most importantly, how confidence, not perfection, is the real secret ingredient. "It's not about filters," she said. "It's about knowing your angle and owning it." Stephen listened, nodded and tried again. With every new pose, the audience was treated to a new version of Colbert. Bashful, bold, bewildered, each one captured on Sarah's phone like a museum of modern man awkwardness. But here's what made it special. She wasn't teaching just Stephen. She was teaching the whole room and the whole audience at home how to stop being afraid of the front-facing camera. Her casual poise, her comfort in her own skin, her refusal to take it all too seriously, it was infectious. Even Stephen started to loosen up. By the third or fourth shot, he struck a pose that actually worked. The lighting hit just right. The angle favored his jawline and the crowd gasped, a blend of surprise and delight. "I think we got one," Sarah said, holding up the phone like a trophy. Stephen peered at the screen, eyes wide. "That's not bad," he admitted, as if he'd just discovered a hidden talent. "We're posting this," Sarah declared, already opening Instagram. Stephen looked horrified, then surrendered. "Okay," he said, "but only if you tag me." This moment, this bizarre, beautiful fusion of pop culture, tech savvy, and unexpected vulnerability was precisely what made it unforgettable. In under 5 minutes, Sarah McDaniel turned a skeptical late-night host into a selfie enthusiast. Not because he suddenly loved the idea, but because she demystified it. She brought him, and all of us, into her world, one frame at a time. And as the cameras cut to commercial and the crowd erupted in applause, one thing was certain. This wasn't just another celebrity segment. This was a moment of cultural translation, where age and experience met youth and spontaneity, and both walked away better for it. As Sarah handed the phone to Stephen, and they posed for one last shot, this time with both of them laughing, eyes closed, no filters, no fear, it was clear the lesson had only just begun. As the lights buzzed overhead, and the audience slowly quieted from their earlier eruption of laughter, the tone on set shifted from playful curiosity to an oddly focused workshop vibe, one where the master had a ring light and the apprentice, despite his decades of experience commanding a stage, still couldn't figure out if he was holding his phone upside down. Sarah McDaniel leaned in again, this time more intentionally, as if sensing Stephen Colbert was about to walk a tightrope between comedic timing and technical confusion, and it was her job to keep him steady. "Break it out," she said, with that same half-smile she'd worn since the start. A smile that said she was both amused and fully invested in making this the most entertaining selfie tutorial in late-night television history. Stephen fumbled with his phone, like it was some alien relic. "I've got one too," he chirped proudly, holding it up like he'd just discovered fire. "They're selfies, not duct tape," he added, earning a fresh wave of laughter from the audience, and Sarah chuckled, clearly enjoying the moment. But beneath the easy humour, something subtle and compelling was unfolding. Stephen was genuinely trying. There was a sincerity in his expression, his brow furrowed, eyes darting between Sarah's example and his own awkward reflection on the screen, as he tried to mirror her posture, her poise, her ease with the lens. It wasn't just a selfie segment anymore. It was a fascinating study in contrast, a generational handshake wrapped in digital lenses and perfectly timed quips. Sarah, like a patient sensei, began her explanation. "Okay," she said, holding her phone up and tilting it just slightly. "Lighting is everything, but not just brightness, direction, shadows, warmth. If the light hits you from above, you look tired. From below, horror movie. From the side, drama, but from slightly above and centered, golden." Stephen blinked. "Golden lighting, got it. Just need a Hollywood lighting rig and a NASA-level tripod." Sarah laughed. "No, just tilt your phone a bit." She demonstrated. He mimicked. The crowd watched, fascinated, as Stephen's face, usually so confident on camera, was now squinting with uncertainty. "Okay, now find your angle," she said, turning her head to the right, exposing her good side with precision that suggested hundreds of hours of muscle memory. "Everyone has one." Stephen tilted his head slightly left. "How about this?" he asked. Sarah squinted, leaned in, and with a small but deliberate shake of the head said, Maybe the other side." He adjusted again. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Because I feel like this side says distinguished, but that side says former DMV employee." The audience roared, and even Sarah doubled over laughing. But then, like a coach regaining focus after a laugh break, she nodded. No, that's your side. Trust me. Chin slightly down, eyes up. Not creepy, just intentional. Relax your mouth. Let it hover between a smile and a thought." Stephen tried again. This time it was better. Still awkward, but better. Sarah nodded, approving. "Now lift the camera, not like you're afraid of it. Own the frame. Hold it above your eye line." Stephen raised his phone a few inches. "So, above the eye line, not so high I get a nosebleed." "Exactly," Sarah said, guiding his hand mid-air. "It's a subtle move, but it changes everything. It stretches the neck, sharpens the jawline. It's selfie geometry." "Selfie geometry," Stephen repeated, like he was in a college lecture. "Is that taught in Gen Z homeroom?" She grinned. "It should be." As the lesson deepened, Sarah's tone shifted slightly, still playful, but with the undercurrent of someone genuinely passionate about her craft. "People think selfies are vain," she said, glancing at the audience, then back to Stephen. "But they're really about control. You decide how the world sees you, not a paparazzi, not a red carpet photo, just you." That landed. Even Stephen seemed to pause for a second, absorbing the truth in her words. "That's actually kind of profound," he said. "Next thing you know, you'll be teaching philosophy through Instagram captions." "Wouldn't be the worst idea," Sarah replied. "Now, back to work. Let's get this angle right." As they continued adjusting and experimenting, the crowd watched a rare thing on live television: the slow, deliberate unraveling of self-consciousness. Stephen, who had started the segment with the same energy as someone trying to figure out a teenager's slang, was slowly becoming less tense. He laughed more easily. He moved with less hesitation. At one point, he even tried to guide Sarah through a pose, suggesting, "What if we both lean in like we're shocked by the photo we just took?" She raised an eyebrow. "So, like a double gasping selfie?" "Exactly," he said. "Pure clickbait." They tried it. The camera flashed, the crowd cheered. "We call that one Breaking News Selfie Game Strong," Stephen declared. Another round of giggles followed, but beneath it all, something deeper was happening. Sarah wasn't just teaching a selfie technique, she was showing how to embrace being seen, to not apologize for occupying space in the frame, to take control of the lens and, by extension, the narrative. It was ironic, perhaps, that it took a late-night segment filled with jokes and accidental filters to uncover a kind of deeper digital truth. The selfie isn't just a photo, it's a moment of self-definition. One you choose, one you shape. And Stephen, much to everyone's surprise, maybe even his own, was starting to get it. "Okay," Sarah said, taking a final glance at their recent attempt. "Now, we're getting somewhere." "Do we have one that's not blurry, or where I don't look like I just stubbed my toe?" Stephen asked. "We've got 5, Sarah replied, and they're better than you think." They stood there for a beat, side by side, the millennial muse and the Gen X talk show Titan, both smiling, not for the camera this time, but for the sheer absurdity and charm of the moment. "Next lesson?" Stephen asked. Sarah considered. "Filters," she said, raising her phone, "but that's a whole other chapter." And just like that, Chapter 2 ended, not with a bang, but with a burst of laughter, a successful shot, and the kind of chemistry that only happens when two people from different worlds find common ground in a 6-inch screen and an open mind. What began as a playful late-night gag quickly evolved into a masterclass in modern photography, and a deeply relatable, hilariously frustrating journey through the digital minefield of selfie culture, led by none other than Sarah McDaniel, the effortlessly composed selfie savant, and Stephen Colbert, the charmingly flustered talk show host, who now found himself drowning in angles, lighting terms, and front-facing camera settings. From the first moment, Stephen tried to mimic Sarah's confident pose. It was evident that this wasn't going to be as simple as smile and click. No, this was a process, a battle even. Stephen, gripping his phone like it was a delicate foreign artifact, twisted and contorted his body in ways that made the audience erupt with laughter, trying to align with Sarah's directions. "Lift your elbow. No, not that high. Relax your jaw. No, don't open your mouth. Okay, maybe just a soft smile, not like you're about to sneeze," Sarah advised, with the kind of patience reserved for art teachers and yoga instructors. The crowd howled as Stephen squinted at his screen like it was displaying a Sudoku puzzle written in Sanskrit. "Where's my angle again?" he asked, peering at his reflection, eyebrows furrowed. Sarah chuckled and leaned over, gently adjusting his wrist like she was guiding a student through a violin solo. "There," she said. "That's your angle. Don't fight it. Embrace it. Let the phone love you." "Let the phone love me?" Stephen replied, laughing. "I think this one hates me. It keeps showing me what I actually look like." The laughter rolled in waves from the audience, but Sarah stayed on task. Okay, one more time. We're going to nail this one. With a deep breath, they held their phones up in sync. Sarah, calm, cool, symmetrical. Stephen, slightly tilted, eyes darting, trying not to blink. On 3, she said. 1, 2, 3, E. Flash! Click! The studio lights reflected in both of their eyes, and the crowd broke into applause. It felt like a touchdown, like they'd just solved world peace, or at least figured out how to get one decent selfie. Stephen checked his phone. He stared, he squinted, he laughed. Okay, he said, this one might not be terrible. Sarah peered over. Let me see. She studied it with a solemn nod. We're getting closer. I'd call this mildly confident uncle on vacation. Stephen grinned. That's a step up from worried substitute teacher during a fire drill, which was the last one. But the struggle wasn't over. Just when they thought they'd found a rhythm, a new challenge emerged. The dreaded lighting sabotage. Studio lights above, stage lights from the side, shadows creeping in like uninvited guests. Sarah paused. Okay, we need to fix this. The lighting's too harsh. It's making you look shiny. Stephen, mock horrified, gasped. Not shiny. That's my natural glow. She pulled out a compact mirror and adjusted their position. Turn slightly toward the light. No. Your left. My right. No. Okay, just follow my face. They shifted again. The audience, now fully invested, clapped like a live studio game show. Let's go for an over-the-shoulder, Sarah suggested. Give it a little mystery. Stephen raised an eyebrow. You want me to seduce the camera? No, she deadpanned. I want you to not look like you're trying to take your passport photo in a gas station bathroom. That earned another huge laugh. But behind the jokes was a real surprising chemistry. Sarah's poise, paired with Stephen's irreverent charm, made for an endlessly entertaining visual tango. She'd tilt his chin, he'd pull a goofy face. She'd pose with elegance. He'd mirror it with exaggerated drama. At one point, they both leaned into the frame at the same time and their foreheads gently bumped. Ow! Stephen said, wincing. That's it. We've invented the collision selfie. Sarah laughed, brushing her hair aside. Let's just call that one close-up intimacy. They clicked again. This time the shot was candid and full of energy, the kind of photo that captures not just faces but spirit. They reviewed it together. Sarah smiled. Okay, that one's magic. Really? Stephen asked, clearly surprised. Yes, she said firmly. You're not overthinking it. You're just being in it. That's the point. A great selfie is less about perfection and more about presence. The studio quieted for a beat, almost like the crowd had collectively registered the deeper truth under the laughter. That, perhaps, in trying so hard to stage the perfect image, we often forget that authenticity, goofy, messy, unfiltered authenticity, is what people actually connect to. Stephen nodded slowly, digesting the advice. So, you're saying I've been trying to control the moment, when really I should be letting the moment speak for itself? Sarah beamed away. Exactly. You're catching on. They tried again, this time with no poses, no filters, no perfect lighting, just a quick glance, a shared laugh, a tap of the screen. Flash. The result? A selfie so natural, so effortlessly joyful, that the audience applauded before even seeing it. It was the kind of shot that belonged in a frame, not because it was flawless, but because it was real. Stephen held the phone up triumphantly. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the first honest selfie of my career. The crowd erupted. Sarah clapped along. Now that's growth, she said. You've graduated? Stephen bowed slightly. I couldn't have done it without my sensei. Sarah took a mock-serious stance, bowed in return and whispered, the selfie is strong in you. And just when it seemed like they'd reached their peak, Stephen leaned in and asked, okay, what's next? Filters? Sarah raised an eyebrow. You sure you're ready for that? He nodded dramatically. Bring it on. I've faced Twitter mobs. I can handle a filter." "All right," she said, pulling out her phone. "Then let's dive into the final frontier." But even as they prepared to embark on the next step of their journey, it was clear to everyone watching that something bigger had happened. A bit that started as a comedy sketch had morphed into a full-fledged bonding experience. A generational bridge built on humour, awkwardness, and the occasional forehead bump. Sarah had shown Stephen the mechanics of the modern lens, yes, but in doing so, she'd also reminded everyone watching that connection, laughter, and authenticity are what make any photo, any moment, truly unforgettable. The struggle, as hilarious as it was, had been worth it. Not for the perfect picture, but for the shared experience. The crowd didn't stop clapping. Phones across the studio were raised now. Viewers inspired to try again, to let themselves be a little less perfect and a little more real. Because if Stephen Colbert could learn to take a decent selfie live in front of millions, maybe the rest of us could too. In the final stretch of their playful saga, Sarah McDaniel and Stephen Colbert found themselves on the verge of something strangely profound. A journey that had begun as a light-hearted, tongue-in-cheek lesson on selfies now evolved into a true human experience, one built on humility, connection, and the power of letting go. Gone were the exaggerated poses, the forced angles, the frantic search for perfect lighting. In their place was something better. Laughter that came from the gut. Shared looks that told stories without words, and a genuine camaraderie that can't be staged no matter how many filters you try. Sarah, ever composed yet open, encouraged Stephen to forget everything he'd tried to learn about selfies and just exist in the moment. "No tips," she said, "no tricks. Just be present. That's the real secret." And as they raised their phones for one final shot, there was no pretense, no overthinking, just two people being unapologetically themselves. Stephen turned to her and said, "What if this one's a disaster?" She smiled softly but confidently, "Then it's perfect." That line hit differently, not just for Stephen, but for everyone watching. Because behind the glamour of talk shows and the manufactured glitz of celebrity culture, there was something universal happening. The realization that beauty often lives in the flaws, the unposed, the slightly blurry truths that tell us we're alive. And so they snapped it. Click. One final photo. The studio audience held its breath. Sarah peeked at the screen and burst into laughter, a kind of real, uncensored laugh that echoed through the theatre. Stephen looked and immediately joined her. It wasn't glamorous or filtered or even centered, but it was them. And that, in the end, was everything. "There it is," she said, "the masterpiece." Stephen held it up like a trophy. Proof that even the most selfie-challenged talk show host can learn something new with the right teacher. The crowd applauded, not just for the photo, but for the chemistry, the entertainment, and the sincerity that had unfolded on stage. Sarah turned toward the camera, her voice clear, warm, and inviting. "Look, you don't have to be a model to take a great selfie. You just have to be you. So whether you're snapping a quick pic at home with friends, or even under the hot lights of a TV studio, own it, let go, and don't forget to laugh at yourself a little." Stephen, ever the showman, jumped in, adding, "And if I can do it, anyone can." The place erupted. But beneath the humour, there was something lasting. In a world obsessed with appearances, perfection, and the constant chase for online validation, this short segment had become an unlikely lesson in self-acceptance. It told us that the best moments are the unscripted ones, the outtakes, the bloopers, the pictures we almost delete but keep because they remind us how fun it was to try. So as the lights dimmed and the segment wrapped, it wasn't just about selfies anymore. It was about presence, laughter, and finding joy in the imperfect. It was about what happens when we stop trying to look perfect and instead try to feel present. And now, as the screen fades out and the music gently swells, we leave you with this. If this video made you smile, If it reminded you that authenticity is worth more than any filter, then we invite you to join us on this journey. Tap that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who needs a reminder to love their own reflection, flaws and all. Because the truth is, every moment, every laugh, every slightly awkward photo, those are the snapshots that matter. And if we can laugh, learn, and grow together, one selfie at a time, then we've already captured something priceless. Subscribe now, stay real, and never underestimate the power of a perfectly imperfect selfie.